Friends, today we will revise what we have learned in last 5 days. So first we will learn about the electroscope and its working. An electroscope is a device made of a conducting wire and metal leaves are arranged in an insulated body. You can see this in diagram: metal wire, insulated body and metal leaves. Electroscope is used to detect the presence of charge on an object. It is also used to determine the nature of charges on an object. In the diagram, you can see how the testing of a charge is being done through the electroscope. Working of an electroscope. When a charged object is brought close or touched to the electroscope, what happens? Metal wire and leaves of electroscope get charged. Both leaves get the same charge and hence they repel each other. Due to repulsion, the leaves diverge, means move away from each other. Divergence of leaves proves the presence of charge on an object. We have already prepared our electroscope in the class activity that we have studied earlier and tried testing some charged objects with it. So let us now discuss our observations. Material to be tested and change in the position of leaves. Uncharged balloon, when it is brought near the electroscope or touched with the electroscope body, so what happens? Nothing, no change is there. The electroscope leaves don't diverge because there was no charge on the balloon, so there was no charge on the leaves too. When the charged balloon is brought near and is touched to the wire, what happens? The leaves get diverged. Okay. So what happens? On rubbing with wool, the balloon got negatively charged, and when the balloon was brought close to the electroscope, it attracted the positive charges to the top of the wire. So the wire got positively charged due to induction. Right? The electroscope leaves moved away or diverged when the balloon was rubbed with wool and then brought close to the copper wire. What does this prove? This the leaves of electroscope acquired negative charges due to the same type of charges on both the leaves. They repelled and diverged. Divergence of leaves proves that the balloon was charged. Right? Note that divergence of leaves only proves some charge is present on the object brought closer to an electroscope. Nature of that charge cannot be determined, isn't it? So, determination of the type of charge with the help of an electroscope. How do we do it? For testing the charge on a body, the electroscope is first charged with a known charge. This can be done by bringing a body with a known type of charge in contact with the wire of electroscope. Let us assume that the leaves of an electroscope are positively charged. Let us see what happens now. The body to be tested is brought in contact with the top end of the electroscope. This leads to the conduction of charges between the body and the electroscope. So we can observe the divergence of the leaves to determine the type of charge. Will the leaves of an electroscope diverge or converge if body with the same charge as the electroscope is brought in contact with it? What will happen? So answer is the leaves of electroscope will diverge a bit more if a body with same charge as that of the electroscope is brought in contact with it. Determination of type of charge with the help of an electroscope. If the test body with the same charge as that of the electroscope is brought in contact with it, the divergence of the leaves increases. In this case, the increase in the divergence of the leaves will imply that the body is positively charged. This is because the amount of positive charge on the leaves increases, thereby increasing the repulsion between them. Now, will the leaves of an electroscope diverge or converge if the body with a charge opposite to that of the electroscope is brought in contact with it? Let us see what happens. The leaves of electroscope will converge if the body with a charge opposite to that of the electroscope is brought in contact with it. So determination of the type of charge with the help of an electroscope. If the body with a charge opposite to that of the electroscope is brought in contact with the divergence of the leaves, with it, the divergence of the leaves decreases. In this case, decrease in the divergence of the leaves will imply that the body is negatively charged. This is because the amount of positive charge on the leaves decreases, thereby decreasing the repulsion between them. What will happen if we touch our fingers to the electroscope? Will its leaves attract or repel? Answer is the leaves of the electroscope will come closer to each other if we touch it. It is because our body acts as a conductor and will conduct away the charges on the leaves to the earth. Let us summarize. An electroscope is a device that is used to detect the presence of charge on objects. It is also used to find out if a body is positively charged or negatively charged. Transfer of charges from the charged body to the earth through a conductor is called earthing. Friends, through this CRL we will learn how does the lightning occur. So let us see this CRL and learn about it.
The longest lightning bolt recorded was approximately 700 kilometers long. In the year 2018, a single lightning flash sliced through the air in Brazil for a 700-kilometer long stretch from the Atlantic coast to the edge of Argentina. Have you ever wondered how this incredible phenomenon called lightning occurs? In this video, let's understand how lightning occurs during a storm. During a storm, the air currents move upward while the water droplets from the clouds move downward. During these vigorous movements, a few complex processes cause the separation of charges in the clouds. This results in the accumulation of negative charges at the bottom and positive charges on the top of the clouds. In general, air is a poor conductor of electricity. But when the magnitude of the accumulated charges in the clouds becomes very large, the air is no longer able to resist the flow of these charges. Therefore, the negative charges flow from the clouds as air conducts them. This attracts the positive charges on the ground. This flow of charges between the clouds and the ground results in streaks of bright light and sound. This is lightning, and this process is called electric discharge. Electric discharge can occur in three ways. Firstly, it can occur between a cloud and any object on the ground. Secondly, it can occur within a cloud. This happens when the magnitude of opposite charges within the cloud is large. Thirdly, it can occur between two clouds. This happens when two electrically charged clouds meet in such a way that their sides with opposite charges face each other. We saw how lightning occurs, but why do we hear a loud crack or thunder during lightning? It is because lightning is extremely hot, which heats up the air too. As this hot air escapes through the lightning bolt, it creates a loud crack or thunder. Did you know that a flash of lightning can make the air around it 5 times hotter than the sun's surface? Its extreme heat can vaporize the water inside a tree, creating steam that may blow up the tree. That is why lightning and thunderstorms can be extremely harmful to people, animals, and property. Now, let's quickly recap how lightning occurs. The air currents flowing upwards results in the separation of charges in the cloud. As a result, the accumulated charges become very large and the air is no longer able to resist their flow. The negative charges flow toward the positive charges on the ground and vice versa. This causes streaks of bright light and sound, which we call lightning. So next time you see lightning, think of how it occurs.
Now we will learn about the lightning conductor. How it is, we are going to see.
Let us learn what a lightning conductor is. You must have heard that high-rise buildings usually get struck by lightning. But have you ever thought why taller buildings get struck by lightning more easily? Taller buildings reduce the distance of lightning to travel to reach the ground. So, they are often hit by lightning. Do you know how much electric charge is carried by a single lightning bolt? You would be surprised to know that these lightning bolts carry such a high amount of energy that it is enough to destroy a whole building in seconds. So, if lightning is so dangerous, how can we protect buildings against lightning strikes? Using a metal rod called a lightning conductor helps protect buildings against lightning. These rods are fixed vertically on top of the building. They can be seen on top of many houses and buildings to provide protection against lightning. How do you think the lightning conductors protect buildings from lightning strikes? The structure of a lightning conductor includes spikes on top that are further connected to a copper plate buried under the earth. So, now you all know how we keep buildings protected against lightning strikes. Yes, it is because of lightning conductors.
Through this CRL, we are going to learn about the earthquakes.
Hello students, today let us see what an earthquake is and what causes it. Do you know what an earthquake is? An earthquake is a sudden shaking or trembling of the earth which lasts for a very short time. It is caused by a disturbance deep inside the earth's crust. The earth's crust is made of various slabs of rocks or fragments called tectonic plates. In the earth's crust, there are 7 major tectonic plates and some minor ones. The edges where the tectonic plates meet are called plate boundaries. There are three types of plate boundaries. Let us learn about them one by one. The first type of boundary is where two plates are moving apart. The second type of boundary is where the two plates slide past each other. The third type of boundary is where the two plates collide with each other. Any kind of movement of the tectonic plates can cause an earthquake. Places directly above the boundaries of the tectonic plates have a higher probability of experiencing an earthquake. These places are known as seismic zones or fault zones. When two tectonic plates move in any given manner, their edges can get stuck. When these fault lines get stuck, the pressure slowly builds up, and once it gets strong enough, the plates suddenly move, causing a radiation of seismic waves or an earthquake. The point below the surface of the earth, where the earthquake starts, is known as the focus of the earthquake. The point on the surface of the earth, right above the focus, is known as the epicenter. In this video, we have learned that an earthquake is the sudden shaking or trembling of the earth, which lasts for a very short time. It is caused by a disturbance deep inside the earth's crust. The earth's crust is made of various slabs of rocks or fragments called tectonic plates. Any kind of movement of the tectonic plates can cause an earthquake. Places directly above the boundaries of the tectonic plates have a higher probability of experiencing an earthquake. These places are known as seismic zones or fault zones.
Students, through this CRL, we will learn about seismograph. What is a seismograph and how it works. So let us see the CRL and learn.
Hello students, today we will learn about the working of a seismograph, an instrument used to measure the intensity of an earthquake. But first, let's understand what an earthquake is. An earthquake is the shaking of the earth which occurs due to the sudden release of energy under Earth's lithosphere. But how does this happen? Let's find out. We know that the Earth's crust is made up of tectonic plates which are constantly moving. The edges where the tectonic plates meet are called plate boundaries. When two tectonic plates move in any given way, the edges can get stuck. The pressure slowly builds up, and once it gets high enough, the plates move suddenly, causing vibrations. These vibrations are called seismic waves or an earthquake. When these seismic waves reach the surface of the earth, tremors or earthquakes are felt. On 26th January 2001, an earthquake with intensity of 7.7 on the Richter scale hit the state of Gujarat. This earthquake led to the loss of nearly 20,000 lives. Several towns and villages were also destroyed in this catastrophe. Similarly, on 8th June 2020, a low-intensity earthquake of magnitude 2.1 on the Richter scale hit Delhi. Fortunately, no casualties were reported this time. In both examples, we saw that the intensity of the earthquakes differed. How do you think scientists measure the intensity of earthquakes? Well, you're right. The intensity of earthquakes is measured with the help of a special instrument called a seismograph. Let's take a look at how a seismograph works. A seismograph records seismic waves caused by the movements of the tectonic plates. A seismograph is made up of a pen, a pendulum, a string, a support, and chart paper. The pendulum starts vibrating when tremors occur. The pen attached to the pendulum records the seismic waves in the form of a graph on a moving paper placed under it. These graphs or seismographs contain information that can be used to determine how strong the earthquake was, how long it lasted for, and how far away it occurred. By studying these waves, scientists can construct a complete map of the earthquake and thus can also understand its intensity. The intensity or magnitude of earthquakes is measured on a scale called the Richter scale. When an earthquake is of low intensity as per the Richter scale, the destruction is less, as we saw in the example of Delhi. On the other hand, when the intensity is high, the earthquake causes more destruction, like we saw in the example of Gujarat. Now, can you guess which of the seismograms out of A and B represents the intensity of the earthquake that occurred in Gujarat and which one represents that of Delhi? Well, you are correct again. Seismogram A represents the earthquake that occurred in Delhi, as graph A shows an earthquake that is lower in intensity. And seismogram B represents the earthquake that occurred in Gujarat, as graph B shows an earthquake that is higher in intensity. So today, we learned how the intensity of an earthquake can be measured with the help of an instrument called a seismograph. We also saw how to interpret the